try that again. Good morning. We'll call the Thursday morning, November 17th, Public Safety Committee meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for John Krennick, who passed away. I think it's more than fitting that we have a moment of silence for him. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mr. Byrne? Mr. Legess? Mr. Stauffenberg? Mr. Enns? Mr. Tholen? Mr. McConnell? Ms. Polk? Mr. Snipes? Mr. Seroy? Mr. Reed? Ms. Peters? Mr. Bassard? We have a quorum.
Thank you. I have not received anything for public comment at this point. Any public comment? Any public comment? Move on to the approval of the minutes. We have a set of April 21st, 2016. For all of you who can remember, I'll take a motion to approve. Mr. Enns, second by Ms. Polk. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. At this time, I might add that Diane is now full-time. She's on call for the Finance, yeah, thank you. Drew a blank there. Finance Committee yet, but she will be catching up on the minutes, so.
It might take a long time.
It might take a little bit, but we finally got her on full-time, so that's what we needed.
Yep.
Coroner's Office, Mr. Gessner. In your packet, you have a copy of the Coroner's Monthly Report and the Income Summary Report. I'll take a motion to combine them and approve. Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Stauffenberg. Comments on your report, Bob?
Everybody's all done. Well, as you can see, the month of October was outstanding with a number of calls. 11 autopsies. It's been the last 3 weeks have been extremely busy. As you move down there, the homicides, we have a total of 8 in the county. 4 you saw in October we had. The suicides. Then you notice that the motor vehicles up into right now, as we have 23 vehicular fatals in Kankakee County. It's on an uprise. 23. I'll take any questions you have on any comments that you have on that aspect.
Any questions on the report? No questions. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. What else you have for us, sir?
I'd like to bring something up that some good news that happened to our office that we've been working on the program. As you can see, trying to get down here towards. We just received a donation on the 1st of November to the coroner's office and the Kankakee County Sheriff's Office. Both the sheriff and I were there at Riverside to get this picture along with Al Taunton from the EMS division. We're very proud. That's a generous donation. Well, what happened was that our Narcan went out because we don't have any money, and the heroin is going up so steep in this county. We're looking to get back into that program. So as I did, I moved around to talk to different people. This is not the only donation I'm going to get, but it's also, I think, $5,000 to get our program back on the go. As you've noticed, and it's been in the paper there, that the chief from St. Anne had a save on the Narcan, Oxazone, if you want to call it either one. But also, the Sheriff's Department just recently had Corporal Brent Laird had a save on the Narcan. which was an outstanding, to get a save out of our area, which we've been out. And we were the first in the county to get all the deputies done, actually the first in the state just about. Now it's mandatory, so we're all set with that. We just have to have a refresher every 2 years. But this $5,000 is going to help us. I'm very proud to be able to do that, and I'm very proud of Riverside. They're very in with us in this program, along with the health department, and along with Chief Swinford back there also, who has helped me quite considerably. So that's some good news.
It's great news. Yes.
Thank you.
Once again, Kankakee County is at the forefront of starting programs.
Just a little talk on the budget where we're at right now. We're currently on target to end the year around $405,000 this year. Considerably, we're set at $350,000, which is about $55,000 over. But this week alone has given us autopsies every day this week. We have one starting at 9:15 on another overdose. Our overdoses have gone considerably high. If you look down there when I talked to you about the fatalities, the morgue itself is what's costing us. Otherwise, I'm right on target with all of my estimates. All my online stuff is all right on target except for the morgue. We're 55,000. I can't tell you exactly how much more at 1,500 a shot. We've done 5 this week already, so that's going to be added on to that too. And we're not done yet either. So I'm sure. I just want to go ahead.
Mr. Enns has a question.
Yes.
Yeah, my question kind of relates to the budget. The study, the bellwether study we're doing, are they studying your fees also?
No, ours are statute.
Yours are by statute. Okay, I just wondered, because I see we're doing an awful lot of cremation anymore, and I was wondering maybe there was a chance we could up that a little bit, you know.
You know where the cremation fees go to, don't you?
Pardon?
You know where the cremation fees go to. They don't go to the county.
They don't.
It goes to the coroner's fees. That's why we're able to purchase x-rays machines,
Yeah,
portable walkie-talkies, and 2 cars.
but they're as high as they can
Yep,
be.
they're as high as they can go. We talked about that. I was just down in Peoria at a seminar. We talked about that. There are some areas in Iowa, Wisconsin that are up to $250 for cremation. So
It just seems like that fee is kind of low to me.
yeah, I agree with you on that aspect. But also on the budget, I just want to give you, and constantly, sometimes I don't think it ever gets transferred from this department here, public safety, out to the rest of the county board. My office has got considerably, done a lot of work to try to reduce the amount of money we're spending. Not only with the coroner's fees, we just don't leave it back. We enforce it to the x-ray machines, the body bags, all the stuff that we're providing 2 new cars that we're getting through our fees. It doesn't cost the county a cent. We've also have completely stripped our storeroom out, where I've talked to Brian because I got more cabinets to get rid of. Of all of our calls, all the way back from 1950, have now been put on by my staff. Nobody else. My staff has put them onto the computer, and they're all now in our office, where we can get to them a little quicker than what we're before. But we're paperless. We've gone from 2006 spending $4,000 in our office budget to our expense right now is October 31st, 2016. $49.05 is what we spent on our office fees, which is helpful to have with this is due to the central service budget too that we have. But I wish a lot of this stuff was given to a lot of other people that constantly talk about that we're way over budget. I'm not. I'm doing everything possible to what we're doing, working along. I know that last night again, in the last 4, I think, have nothing been but drugs, between cocaine and heroin, the last 4 calls, all coming from the east part of town. Incidents happened, I'm sure the sheriff is going to talk about what happened there last night. But in the midst of all that, we had a heroin overdose at the same time. And this is what's happening. Families are saying they don't know why they're out there. They don't know why they're in this part of the county at all. It's because people know that there's no officers out there. They know that. And they're all over the place. Coming from Indiana, from all over. Because that's where they're getting it. And like I said, with the new, hopefully, with the new state's attorney coming in here, we'll work on some of the things to stop preventing this stuff. We're ready to go out to the schools. We're going to do everything possible. It drives me up a wall to watch these young people now, which our age was 43, and we're down into the 30s now. It's out and about. Here's the big problem. Coming back from Peoria, I don't mean to get at it, but I get a little hot about this because heroin's not heroin anymore. It's a mixture. And that's what's happening with these young people. It might be their first time they do it. It's a mixture of fentanyl. Fentanyl is on the rise. Not only the Fentanyl fentanyl, the carfentanil, which I talked about before, is in our area. Will County, 80 overdoses already. And it's working its way down this way. It's going to cost me more money, I know that, coming down the line. We're already increased. We're on right now to be 25 to 26 heroin overdoses. From last year was only, I believe, 22 deaths. We're on the rise on this. That's not counting the Narcan that is from in the squads that have been saving people. There's a lot more happening out there. It's scary out there. And it's all because we're lacking in the manpower out there. Look at your vehicle accidents. In the day's report I watched on TV today, that it's with their new gadgets they got where they don't have to be on the phone, but it's still not concentrating on driving, and that's what's happening with the vehicle. But every one of these vehicles that we have, every other one, it's got THC in them, and that's going to be legalized. So it's just, what's wrong with the world out there? These are young people, and it's in the schools. And I vow, I say, I'm going to take as much time as I can to get in there and start looking at and talking on this, along with the KMEG, and I'm sure the Sheriff's Department will be behind me too. That's my, other than...
Ms. Peters.
Quick question too, actually. Is there any way you could get numbers on the people who are saved by Narcan? Like how many interventions are done that save people? I think that would be an interesting number for us to know.
We're working on that with Riverside and the hospital. We're working on that. It's one of the things we are. We're just so busy over here right now. I got one down with a back injury, and it puts the pressure on Eric and I both.
Mm-hmm. And then on the autopsies or the actual issue of going over the budget, I talked to you about it when we were doing our finance meetings. I really think that you should give us a number to put in the contingent budget. I think you should have a line item in that, and that should be for going over your budget because of autopsies, because that's all it is. So for us to ignore it isn't the right thing to do. We need to have a contingent. If you spend it, then the money's there and we've got it set aside earmarked for it. But if it's not, then that's a savings that we have. So I think it needs to go in the contingent budget. And I don't know if we need to bring that up in the finance meeting. I'm on the finance committee too. I can bring that up. But we need to actually have a line item for you, because you shouldn't hear about going over budget because of autopsies. So, but maybe you should put a number together that I could propose for next year to put in the contingent budget, because it is going to get brought up again, the whole budget issue. So as money changes, hopefully to the better. So, but thank you, I appreciate that. And definitely we know that you go over budget because of the autopsies and how much they're up this year. So don't feel beat up.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for that comment. Also, too, that you gotta remind yourself that autopsies are going up starting December 1st, so, and lab. And if carfentanil does get in this area, that doubles our lab work, because it's such a hard, they're not geared down low enough to get that. This is pure fentanyl that's pouring in there. And this is what the product, you're getting a little one for $10, $15 there, that might not be heroin.
Okay, can you get me a number, a dollar amount? Let me know how much they're going up, and then what you would want set aside in the contingent to be able to cover your budget, so I can present that at finance. If you get
Well,
that to me, I'll present it.
I presented with a budget of $405,000. We're right on target with that, other than the $55,000 off on the, so, okay, I will, you want me to get it to you? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the coroner?
One last thing. Larry, I know this is your last meeting. Thanks for everything you've done for us.
Thank
For the
you.
county and all that.
Next up is the sheriff.
I'll give you mine when I'm done. Unfortunately, we're not paperless yet. Good morning. The chairman kind of took number one off my list in regards to the moment of silence for John Krennick. Some of us got along with him, some of us didn't. However, I'm happy to say that when it was all said and done, we parted as friends, and it was tragic what happened to him so quick. And regardless of whether we agreed with him or disagreed with him, he was a decent man, and thoughts and prayers to his family. So, the monthly report is starting to look a little better. We're by no means close to where we need to be, but we're getting there. As you can see, in October, our monthly revenue in October for housing was $637,544, which was a significant increase from last October of $479,124. We are looking at November. We're projecting probably slightly over $700,000 in revenue. I would caution anybody who thinks we have money not to spend it, or we'll be right back in the same place we are right now. And I would also suggest that we not stop looking for revenue sources. This isn't the end-all, be-all. It's going to help, but we're all still continuing to look for revenue sources, and we should all still be doing that. Transports are relatively similar. A couple concerning things under Section C. Right now, there's been over 500 inmates from the Department of Corrections that have been sent back to Kankakee County, and so far there's been 104 sent to prison. So as much as we would hope that those coming back from the Illinois Department of Corrections don't commit other crimes, history has proven that doesn't happen, unfortunately. So that's a little bit troubling, but it's reality. So 513 came back.
And how many, you said, send back
104.
So we're about 20%, going back. 80% here and 20% going back.
Do you have any breakdown of who's being released early?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody, it's...
I mean, like drug offenses.
It's a mix. I mean, it's everything. I mean, what I think what a lot of people don't understand about the Illinois Department of Corrections and even our judges, and everybody wants to accuse the judge or the state's attorney of being soft. These people are sentenced in Kankakee County, and once they get to the Department of Corrections, they lose all control over how long they stay in jail. That is strictly up to the Illinois Department of Corrections. So it's not like a judge who sentences an individual can say, I want him in jail for 8 years, when, you know, they get day-for-day credit, they get credit for going to school, they get credit for working, they get credit for this, they get credit for that. And by that time, an 8-year sentence turns out to be 2 years. You can go next door and ask any inmate in there who's waiting sentencing or who knows how much they've pled guilty to. If they've pled guilty to 3 years, they know the exact date and time that they're going to be out back in Kankakee. And that has nothing to do with the judge. It has nothing to do with the state's attorney. That is strictly Illinois Department of Corrections.
Mr. Enns.
Well, Mike, I thought some of these sentences are mandatory. That doesn't make any difference.
Well, the ones that are
either.
mandatory, yeah, sure. I mean, if they're supposed to serve 100%, yeah, they serve 100%. If they serve 85%, yeah, they serve 85%. But that's a small percentage of those who were sentenced to DOC. They're not all mandatory sentences. So, you know,
The judges can't make a mandatory sentence?
no, it's by statute.
Okay.
Yeah, it's by statute. Transports, our medical transports are up. The positive on that is that the majority of them are either feds or ICE, and those are reimbursed salary and mileage. So while they're up, we are still getting some reimbursement for those. On the sworn side, our citations continue to increase. Our civil process numbers are up. And if you flip over to the budget side, you can see that we are...
You didn't mention fatalities are double this year from last year, though.
I mentioned that last month. It hasn't changed.
Boy, that's scary.
Yeah, what he's talking about is our fatalities and car accidents have doubled. Again, the coroner mentioned about where our guys are on the street, and I mean, it's not a secret that they know we're not around in a lot of places. We're around, we're just not in the places where they're getting in accidents. Our budget, it looks like right now we're projected to be 1.72% over. And quite frankly, that is due strictly to the overtime right now that we're still dealing with prior to getting ICE, and now that we've got ICE, and until we get people in the building and trained, that number will continue to be more than it should. Questions on the budget or the report?
Mr. Legess.
Mike, where are we on Enbridge? Are they done now? Are they still going, or what? Where is that at?
We're done.
We're done? So those 6, or whatever there was, they're back on patrol or
Yes.
wherever? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Enns.
Yeah. Mike, I asked this question once before to your predecessor, and he told me at that time that you had somebody that's always watching for grants.
We do.
Do you still have that?
Yes.
Okay, now my question on that, as you're looking for grants for the sheriff's department, is your grant seeker also watching? I'm wondering if there's since it's such a poor area and they have no police department, if you watch for grants that would possibly could go to Pembroke. I know that they have like a watch on grants for them, but I think they have got a couple where they've allowed the county to administrate them. Are we watching for stuff
Yeah,
like
I mean, we
that
watch
out
for
there?
everything. You know, obviously, the thing we have to look at is if the grant is a matching grant, if there's funds we have to come up with, which, I mean, quite frankly, based on the last 2 years, we couldn't match a dollar.
Mhm.
So it would be difficult to match, you know, a quarter of a $250,000 grant with the situation that the financial situation that the county's in.
But they do watch to
Oh, yeah,
see if there
absolutely.
would be anything where, you know, if they could hire 2 officers, that would certainly be a help for you.
That would be a help, no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. But yeah,
Okay.
we keep an eye on that
Okay,
all the
thanks.
time.
Any other questions of that on the report? Take a motion to put this on file. Ms. Peters, second by Ms. Polk. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. County reimbursement policy.
Yeah, I sent an email out to all 28 board members regarding an issue that came up. I did receive a response from a couple people. And I guess the issue for me, I mean, there's a lot of issues, but I guess most importantly, the response that I got back from the person who was questioning it to everybody except me was, does the board have an issue with county employees going to eat dinner when they are out of town at Hooters? That is the issue. At least that's the issue that this board member brought to me. And if there is, I'm just asking, then tell us all, don't send your employees to Hooters, and we won't do that. The bill was for $35.12 for 2 orders of chicken wings and 2 orders of curly fries and a $4.88 tip.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I'm just bringing it to your attention because if you want to change the policy, then change the policy. Otherwise, we can move on.
So you're gonna dictate whether they can go to this restaurant, this restaurant?
Like I said, if I'm good either way because it makes me.
They're on their own time.
Right.
And that's included.
Yes.
Good
I
judgment.
don't think we need to
No.
put our finger on where they can eat as long as it's a reasonable place.
Yeah, it's
Chris, now that's a different story, but
right.
If they
golly.
wanna spend their money there, I don't care.
Well, and it's the other issue is in talking to the auditor, because we have a person here who handles our claims, and if there's something that she sees right away, she brings it to somebody's attention. It then goes over to the county auditor, who is very good about calling us saying, hey, there's a drink on this bill or whatever. I mean, which is what she should do. But there was no alcohol on this Hooters bill, and she, right out of her mouth, said, it's cheaper to go to Hooters than it is to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. So, anyway, we can move on from it. I just want to make sure that there's no issue. And
Got nothing better to do than
the bellwether, the next issue is the bellwether fee study. I have a suggestion based on this. Has everybody seen this?
Nope.
You're kidding me.
No.
Wow. Fortunately, I made copies for you because
What-
we're not paperless.
When did you receive this?
I don't know, 3 weeks ago?
I never saw it.
No.
I'm not shocked.
I certainly would have liked to have a copy of it.
Did you save some for us?
Oh, I did. Oh, give me 2 more, please.
Surprise, surprise.
This one is strictly the court security fee. And right now, we charge, or it's assessed to individuals who plead guilty in court, and there is a fee assessed right now of $25. By statute, that can be determined by a study that obviously can't come from within, and that's the reason for this study. Their recommendation, based on our cost, is to increase this fee from $25 to $44. I would strongly suggest that we move this to finance and onto the county board.
So moved.
Mr. McConnell makes a motion to move this on to, pardon? To the Finance Committee. Is there a second? Mr. N, second.
And that's what the recommendation would do.
The recommendation. Okay.
that we moved on, and also that we accept this.
Got that? To moving on and accept this bellwether study. Mr. McConnell made the motion. Larry, you're all right with that for the second then?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Let's go through it now. Mike.
So,
Anything else on it?
it's really, I mean, without, I wish you guys would have gotten this, you could have seen it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know if the chairman got it. I'm assuming he did, because you guys are the ones that approved it, but I shouldn't assume. So, it lists in here our potential revenue. It talks about our labor cost, our equipment cost, and this is all at the courthouse. And then on the back, let's see, I'm on the page 6, and it's all broken out. I mean, they did a good job with the courthouse security study, and I couldn't find any issues in here that would change anything. They rounded the value. Actually, the total value was $44.85. You cannot round up. You can only round down, so that's where the $44 comes from.
So an increase of 84,000.
Approximately.
And that's for the cases of last year?
That was based on the number that the circuit clerk handled last year, yes.
Okay. So this is based on 2015.
Does any of this money go to you?
Hang on. Go ahead.
It gets put in the courthouse security fund. So at the end of the year, whatever money is accumulated in that account is transferred to our budget, because it can only be used for courthouse security.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, this would have been nice to have last week before the meeting. Any other questions or comments on this? Mike, you'll see that this gets on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I think ultimately we'll need a resolution or whatever the
Right.
date is, so sooner the better.
Yes.
Ice
update.
Ice update. Today, we have 108 ICE detainees in custody. 108 today. In November, we're averaging a total of 305 out-of-county, some detainees, some inmates. We are moving forward. Part of the holdup is getting the adequate staffing here, which Chad and Rob have been doing a great job. We've tested a couple times, interviewed, and we're moving forward with those. Everything we've heard from ICE so far has been very positive. It's been very encouraging. Nothing that they have told us indicates that they're going to be pulling up stakes and pulling out. As I think I've shared with some of you, one of the things that they do is we go to court. Are we going every day now? Pretty much every day with ICE and with the feds, with the marshals. And one of the things that we've done since ICE has gotten here, and I think it shows their commitment to us, is we've got a monitor now that is being installed down in the second classroom area that is going to be a direct feed from here to court in Chicago. So, and that was paid for by the Fed. That was paid for by ICE, not by us. So, I mean, those are obviously positive. They wouldn't invest the $20,000+ to put this monitor in for, another 2 or 3 months of, and it'll save some trips back and forth. It probably won't save every day, but it'll save some.
While you're discussing that rumor out the street, now I hate to bring this up at an open meeting, and Ken, don't quote me on this, but the feds have been looking to spill out the back of the jail and they want to build a courthouse right in the back of the jail. Is there any truth or any, have you heard anything like that?
I have not.
That comes from a couple of other board members, and that's why I hate to bring it up in an open meeting, but I was gonna ask you about that afterwards, but. Okay.
As long as we're not adding on a Hooters, we'll be all right.
It's cheaper.
That's right. So, anyway, so no, I have not heard that.
Okay. Would there be a possibility
We,
ever
we
putting a
are
courthouse in it?
obviously, and I know Mr. Stauffenberg has brought this up a couple times, we are moving forward in looking at some possibilities of if they're gonna be here long-term and if they're gonna turn this into a bigger project of possibly finishing that third phase. Whether or not that ever happens, obviously, we don't wanna pay for it. Maybe the president-elect will pay for it. I mean, you know, not paying for the wall, he'll pay for the jail, so, anyway. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
I guess I brought up too much. All right.
No, there's all kinds of things going on out there as far as what's being said and what we're doing. I can tell you that the representatives who come from ICE are, I mean, to a person have said, we're in a great location, we've got a great facility. Actually, we had meetings with some people from a consulate of a foreign country, and they met with their detainees. And there were two statements made out of that conversation. The one complaint was that the detainees have not been able to see their ICE representatives, which is not our issue. That's an ICE issue. So when that was handled, and Chad and Rob got all over that, talked to ICE, and ICE has been down here about every other day now, so that's been solved. The second thing he said to this consulate was, this is the best facility he's been in out of all the facilities he's been in. So I don't know if that's a compliment or what, but we took it that way.
Yeah.
So credit to the correction staff. When we talk about doing these transports, Marlon Woods is sitting back. Those of you over here probably can't see him because of the post. Marlon Woods is sitting back there with the vest. Marlon is organizing all that, and this stuff doesn't happen at 7 a.m. when we come into work. It happens at 3 in the morning. So it's been quite an adjustment for us. He's handled all of this, and so credit to him for the job he does, and makes us look all the better to the people at ICE. So,
Mr. Stauffenberg has a question.
Congratulations on all that, Mike. By the way, you put a lot of effort into that, 3, 4, 5 years doing this?
we all did.
But when you first started, you mentioned don't give up on some form of income. With what happened in Iroquois County passing a 0.25%, does the sheriff think it's time to ask for a 0.25% to the public?
The sheriff thinks that members of the public should ask for a 0.25%. I mean, it's so difficult here in Kankakee. I think that helps. I mean, I think it obviously helps.
Yeah.
But I think there's still going to be a question of, you know, and we have to, it's going to have to come from somebody other than myself or the board. It's going to have to come from members of the community who want to move this county forward, and I'm not quite sure that we're the right people to do it. We can obviously provide any information, but I think it's people from the public that really need to force the issue.
I'll make another comment. I read a lot of articles being in the insurance business, and to go along with your accidents and the coroner's death accidents, there's an insurance company that in 2015 lost $40 million due to distractions of cell phones and texting. They lost $90 million so far this year to the same thing. So I think you're going to see some different laws come out about, you know, driving and texting. And I pass a lot of people every day that are on
Every
their
day.
phone and are texting. Passed a semi this weekend. The guy had it strapped to his steering wheel, texting. You can see him taking his fingers going like that as I passed him. You know.
And that's true, and the only thing you need, though, is you need people out there to stop these people.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm thinking about more on the streets.
Yep.
Yeah. And what you just said, if they went to 90 million, that means in this, I mean, this whole thing is gonna come back down to us because the insurance rates are gonna have to go up to cover
This
the
was just
loss.
one company too.
Right.
It is one that operates nationwide, but double their expenses.
You know, and eventually, I mean, I'm just gonna say this, that I think some of the local people that you have backing yourself, or backing the officers up, that's gonna filter down into their budgets, you know.
No doubt.
You know, and we wanna charge them more for booking and everything. Eventually, they may say, if we're gonna answer your calls, we're gonna charge you for answering a call. So,
Every company that's come in my office, which is 5 or 6 so far, is going to raise their automobile insurance rates. And that's all a reflection from that. Yeah.
So for those of you that don't listen to Ken or Josh in the morning, we had another shooting last night out east. It was a multiple shooting, multiple victims. As everybody's aware, we had 4 homicides the first part of October that we have exhausted a number of resources on. I can tell you last night that Lieutenant Gessner, who's sitting in the back, our EMA director, was out. Lieutenant Swinford was out. We had every car we had was out on that scene, which isn't saying a whole lot. We had assistance from Moments and St. Anne and the Illinois State Police, which leads to what you just said. And as one of the people out there said, you know, there's people out there carrying around long guns because they know we're not out there. We know we're not around. So they're both, as far as we know at this point, they're both still alive. We've not heard anything different this morning. So our guys are spread thin.
did you have a comment, Todd? Use microphone, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Sheriff. I'm going to try to remain civil, but I've been advocating for more police protection in that area. I travel that area. I know people in that area. And where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know what you can do to get more officers visible and out in that area or sweep that area, but it's not a safe environment for anybody right now.
No doubt.
And I'm sick and tired of other board members not worried about the citizens in my area. And all it would take would be some presence of some dang squad cars running down the main street. I'm very upset. It was a long evening for your officers and myself. So please, can we get some squad cars out there? And I don't care who you stop and check everybody, because there's a lot of bad things going on. And I've said it many times. I've seen it myself. I see cars from Indiana coming across the border, going back. I know what those people are doing. It's pretty obvious. But we need to handle the situation before it gets out of hand, because I believe this isn't going to be the last time.
No, and it is out of hand.
It's very out of
It's
hand.
out of hand. It's been out of hand for a while.
You know, and we need to handle that. And I'm putting that on you, Mr. Sheriff. And I'm done.
Any other questions, comments?
We have been saying this for, I don't know how long. And we knew it would come to this. Our resources are what they are. And we can put a car there, and where there's a car there, there'll be a car not somewhere else. We have cars on the east side of the county, and we have cars on the west side of the county. And we'll continue to monitor what's going on out east. If somebody wants to authorize me to hire 6 deputies, I'll do it tomorrow.
I don't want to argue. I really don't. But I know there's a 2-man car that's out east.
Yes.
Why couldn't we have 2 1-man cars? I mean, that's just a question. I mean, it would, your scope would be better, you know, if you pick somebody up, those 2 guys got to come here, drop them off, and then they're out there. I mean, you could have 1 guy out there, and I understand it's the safety of the officers we're concerned about.
No doubt.
But if they're both out there, they both could back each other up, but they wouldn't have to be in the same stinking place.
Right.
The bad thing with that is, you know, I used to work part-time for the city of Momence. The bad thing that is, if they're not together and something happens, the guy is still alone. The one guy is still alone. He may only be 2 miles away, 3 miles away, but it may be too late.
Well, it was too late last night.
Yep. Mr.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Seroy on some points, but in my opinion, this needs to be brought up to the Finance Committee. I don't think there's anybody in this committee here that would disagree with Mr. Seroy. Nobody
No doubt.
on this
No doubt
committee.
about it.
So I think where it needs to be brought up is at the Finance Committee, and I think that all this, any members on the Finance Committee here should bring it up to Finance Committee. I feel that our hands are tied. So this is really a Finance Committee issue.
And it goes back to the issue that Mr. Stauffenberg brought up. Is it time for a 1/4%? I mean,
I'm thinking it is.
the last time I know we went for 1 cent, but
I'm-
that was a big area
I've-
out there that voted dead set against.
Here's
the
what I've
public safety
advocated
tax.
before in the Finance Committee. I've brought this up. I think maybe the last time we were a little too greedy. I think maybe we should ask for a 0.5%. I think the school district still would like would still like to have some money. Maybe we could coordinate our thing with the school district and ask for 1% raise. I think we might be able to get it. The last time we were asking for 2%. People aren't going to go 2%. They may go 1%, and we would have the school backing if we coordinated it with them, which would help tremendously, I think.
You have a comment, Mike?
I don't think you're gonna get 1%. I think what Iroquois did is, from what I've read, is they targeted what the money was gonna go to, and they had a good campaign of getting that out to the people. And I think I agree with the sheriff that it can't come from us. It has to come from a group. And I think the goal of that 1/4 or 1/2 or whatever you want has to be laid out. And even if we have to sunset it to get through, you know, but like Mike said, you know, ice may not go on forever, you know, and then what do we do? But, you know, I think there has to be some group to sit down and start talking about it and lay down some ground rules. But we were dead in the water last time with the schools and us both. It didn't have a chance. But, you know, the more of these things that happen, and, you know, the other problem is, too, is, and I agree with Todd, that area, it seems to me, in my years on the county board, it's always been forgotten, you know. But the fact remains is that 75,000 or more out of the 110,000 people in the county have police protection. You know, the village of Bradley, Bourbonnais, whenever I bring up public safety to them, their comment is always, I got police protection. You know, they don't worry about the rest of the county. You know,
And we have board members like that.
I agree, and that's the people that we got to get to if we want to, you know, go for a 1/4 or 1/2 or whatever we want to go for, is to get those people, and it's going to be a battle.
Mr. McConnell.
I concur with my colleagues that in Bourbonnais, I've been arguing this point. I brought it up at one meeting. You know, they've got this much area, the sheriff's got this much area, and just what Mr. just said. If it doesn't affect them, they're not concerned about it. But this is not gonna stop out there. Sooner or later, it's gonna be in Bourbonnais and Bradley and Kankakee. Well, I'm
It is.
talking about to the extent that it is
Yeah.
out there, it's gonna happen. And they said, well, and I've talked to the sheriff or the chief about that. He said, yeah, we'll help when we can, if we can. Let's tell you something, you know?
Yep.
And they would. But it's gonna happen. We better start thinking about it more seriously than we have. And the point being is that that's been neglected. It has been. And that's a shame. I have sympathized with Mr. Seroy's and his constituents. It's gotta stop.
Mr. Snipes.
I represent most of the east side of Kankakee, but you also know that I advocate across the county. I would not concur for us to include the school, and this is the reason why. They are the recipient of a $29.7 million loan at zero base. The people are going to say, you didn't get your 1%, so now we got to pay this $29.7 million back. I think the safest way and the only way, because the people are demanding two things. One is, and I have a degree in accounting, but accounting and accountability. And when we don't target dollars for a specific purpose, they knew, and when I sat on the county board, I still sit on the county board, but when we were arguing at that time, I said, is this money directly going towards? They turned around and started putting other little variances up in there. So the people looked at it and saying, all you're going to do is take that money and then move it wherever you want to, and it's not going to go to the intended purpose. If you don't specifically state where that money is going to and the specific purpose, and I believe that we can, if you don't want to get the people to spearhead it, certainly we can encourage the mayors that of the incorporated areas to basically see the issue outside of just their territory and the need for that particular public safety. And then those individuals who are outside of the what we call into the incorporated areas and outside of the incorporated areas that we're responsible for as a county and the sheriff and them out to basically see this issue. And I think if they take the leadership role in that and getting that message out to the people, I think we'll be in a better shape to move a 0.25%. I don't think they're going to go to the 0.5% because they're going to want to see what you do with the 0.25% before they even trust you past that point. But I think an argument can be made or whatever. And I think if we stand together as leaders, then the public body or the constituents or the people that are affected then will see a picture and move in as far as charity and compassion is concerned. However, when you have the statistics of these deaths that are happening because of the lack of police protection or the timing of them being able to have sufficient officers to get to where they have to get, I don't think no one can close an eye to that. But I think that as elected officials who are elected by the people, and then those other leaders that's in the community, the clergy, everybody has to be a part of this message. And I think that each of us who has influence should be able to bring this together for an urgent and critical need. This is a greater need than the waters in Detroit. I understand that some things happen in Detroit or wherever, but that issue was dealt with because of the water. But when a life is taken, and many lives are taken, the next could be your life. So I think there's an argument that can be made if we basically set these dollars and say this is going solely to the public safety to these outlying counties that don't have it. And we can use the Pembroke or whatever and let them tell their testimonies, and I believe you can get this passed. That's just my spiel now, backing out.
Mr. Legess.
You know, it's hard to make an argument for or against that last referendum because it was so muddled with the schools and everybody on it. But we received a letter from those fire chiefs out in that area or whoever that came from. So I went back and looked at the vote tallies, and believe it or not, all of those areas that those chiefs sent that letter from, they voted against the sales tax, 75%. So it just, I mean, if those people out there vote against it, but like I said, it was so muddled, who knows? Maybe they would go for a quarter, but it just goes to show you that if people out there where they need the money would vote that high against it, there was a real problem with it.
We have a report coming around for the bellwether study. Anything else for us
Oh,
here?
yeah. Yeah, here's that letter that Mr. Legess is talking about from those firemen. And I think as I think I can't remember which committee I told when they were talking about that sales tax, nobody was asking for a quarter cent the last sales tax referendum. It was a penny here and a penny there. And quite frankly, the schools reached out to the county board and said, if you guys go for a half, we'll go for a half. And the chairman told them that no, that a half wasn't enough. And that's the problem. That's why the sales tax didn't pass, because somebody was greedy. But again, we can talk about sales tax and it wouldn't happen for another year anyway. The issue is now, and it's an issue that we've got to deal with, and we will. A couple other things. As the sheriff, I am automatically a member of the board of CANCOM. They meet once a month on a Wednesday, the third Wednesday, I believe. But the sheriff is automatically on that board regardless of who he is. And we go there and we go over, much like any other board, you go over budgets and you go over the things that are happening. And every month, they go over their bills and their revenues and their expenditures, and Kankakee County is the one that hasn't paid. And at some point, I think CANCOM is in a tight spot, because what happens if these other jurisdictions who use CANCOM don't pay? And every month, it's Kankakee County that is the only one that isn't up to date on their bills. And they're not 30 days behind. They're not 60 days behind. They're not 120 days behind. I think the last check they got was in April. So I would just ask that somebody pay our CANCOM bill on a regular basis. The dispatchers are an important part of what we do as police officers. Fire, I mean, they are basically the hub of what's going on in any incident. They do an outstanding job, and we couldn't do our jobs without them. And so I would certainly appreciate if we would get up to date on our bills. I don't have any idea. I don't know. And the last issue is not a pleasant one to talk about, but it's something that people should be aware of. As of last Tuesday or Wednesday, there was another warrant issued for one of your members. We talk about all the resources, and Mr. Seroy makes valid points, and people are spending their time entering information, paperwork at the courthouse, paperwork at the circuit clerk, paperwork here. We have all these people who are doing all this work. This isn't the first time. It's not the second time. It's not the third time. This is the fourth time we have dealt with a warrant for a county board member. So, I mean, quite frankly, he's not solving the problem. He is the problem. And it's frustrating on our end, because here's a guy who's on the Criminal Justice Committee. Kind of ironic. Yeah, and he's making decisions that how will they affect us? We don't know. Why would he vote for anything for us? He probably doesn't like us. And he can't. And I mean, if somebody who's on the county board can't follow a simple rule, we use Warrant Wednesday for that reason. If you can't show up for your court date, that is one basic responsibility that any one of us in here could handle. But those that end up on Warrant Wednesday obviously can't, and that's why they're there. But, we didn't put him on Warrant Wednesday, but who knows what happens. So But, we're talking about trying to use all of our resources to do the best we can for everybody. And we've got one of our own board members who's, costing us more money than anything. So, other than that, that's all I got.
Any other questions or comments for the sheriff? Mr. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into, I'll check with whoever, maybe after the state's attorney sworn in, or even the one not the one we got now, but, to see if there must be some criteria that a board member can be removed. As far as I know, I don't know of any meetings he's gone to. He's not at any, he's on finance, he's not been at finance. He's on this one, he's not been here. I don't understand why he doesn't resign, but. Huh?
I think that
Well, we have to figure out legally what
I think
position
there's
we're in,
something- If you miss so many board meetings, you'd be
Yeah, I don't know
replaced.
if there's an ordinance on that or what.
Yeah.
He took a sworn oath. I mean, he took you sworn in. If you're not sworn in, I know there's you can do something about it. However, he's just a county board member and representing, I think, his people that he represents would have to make that noise, and versus us making that noise, I don't think he's going to be removed outside of that, because there would have to be some type of conviction, felony, or whatever, and if he's not reached that threshold, it's just a dereliction of duty to the individuals that he served, and they would have to start making noise before we can even look at it.
Well, we may be crossing over here a little bit, talking personnel, so let's, yeah, well, let's move on. Any other questions or comments for the sheriff?
On the issue of the CAMCOM, I think whether by motion or just a strong recommendation from this particular board to the finance and to I was about to say the chairman, but I know to the finance to see why these bills are not being paid, and not so much that we can't have the money and all that, but since April, something should be paid. So I'm looking that we should at least move that concern over to finance and to the board as to why these individuals are not being paid. Why this one on record, so that way it doesn't look like it fell on deaf ears.
Any other questions or comments for the sheriff? Any other business to come before the committee? Any new business or old business to come before the committee? Ms. Polk,
I'd like to ask one question.
bring your mic down there.
I'd like to ask one question. If President-elect Trump, if he is going to deport all of these people, will we get some in Kankakee? Because you have to hold the detainees. You can't just ship them off. What happens?
Right, and that's all still kind of up in the air. I mean, that's always been the word, just based on the campaign promises and all that, but as you've seen already, some things change. So, like I said, we don't think anything's going away. We just don't know how it's going to affect us long term, whether it's going to just be overblown with ICE detainees from deporting them, or if it's going to be kind of status quo and we'll maintain what we have. But at this point, we don't know. But that's a good question.
Mr. Legess? Second by Mr. Enns. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Larry, thank you.